Well, thank you everyone. Thank you for being here and for giving us this opportunity to discuss an interesting subject which says marketing in the era of technological disruption. Uh, Thank you to each one of you for being on this panel. Interesting, I would say, collection of people we have, okay, uh, from the world of digital and the world of physical and digital, right? For some of us, our entire product and experience is on a screen. For some of us, a large part of our product and experience is actually in handling the product, using it, and possibly even going now, even today, going to a showroom and experiencing what we have to offer. So I'll start off with you, Ashish, right? And let's try to be as candid as we were trying to be in the room behind. Okay, because
You sure about it?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Please go ahead, no holds barred, because that's actually what really makes a conversation interesting, right? As long as we don't use foul language, everything else is allowed. Okay, so Ashish, I'll start with you. Okay, when you hear something called technological disruption, uh, how do you react to a term like this, especially in your workspace?
Okay, I think for me, the life of a marketing person, okay, with the advent of technology, is like being on a treadmill which is only increasing the speed by the hour. Think about it, when I started my life, and I used to see my chief marketing officer at that point in time, some 23 years back, and I used to wonder, 3 campaigns in a year, couple of creatives, what a life. And interestingly, my life, if I want to sum it up, it sums up in 2 lines. I started my career by creating websites and then printing brochures, giving out people saying what a website is. Today also, I have website and I have brochure. Only difference is I create websites, create brochures, and give out website address to tell people where to download a brochure. This line sums up the change in the marketing landscape. Today, just to put things into numerical perspective, which 23 years back, if somebody in marketing said that everything has to be measured, people would probably laugh at it. Today, if a marketing guy is not talking numbers, you would probably not be doing justice. If you look at it, a company which a turnover of about 10 CR, and I'm talking of very, very small company. Any guesses how many creatives the company would be making? A 10 CR. And if it's a digital brand which has digital and physical presence, on an average in a year, how many pieces of communication an organization creates? Any guesses? Any numbers from the audience? Any numbers? Oh, it's just a mathematical number. Say anything. Nothing is the wrong answer. Sorry? 4,000. Okay. Anybody else? 100K. Okay. Anybody else? On an average, a 10 CR company which with a presence of almost about 2 digital assets. And when I say digital assets, it means a Facebook page and a website can be 2 digital assets differently. It's not a social media, so as to say, which kind of gets gametted. They create more than 600 creatives a year. Differentiated creatives, as they have to have a meaningful conversation. Which essentially means, do we know how many days in a year a marketer typically works, or any one of us work? Anybody? 365 is not an answer. Yeah. While in reality you might be, but I would refrain from being there. Those were the backroom conversations. But yeah, typically a person works for almost about 270 odd days on an average out of 365 days. Think about it, 270 days and 450 odd creatives, which means 2 creatives a day. And that is the differentiation which technology has brought. In a simplistic term, your marketing fundamentals are the same. Only thing is the depth of understanding of that marketing fundamentals to be able to create impact because of your channel of communication, channel of connect, channel of engagement have gone multifold. Yeah, the consumer journey, so as to say, which used to be earlier, say, simply linear journey, has become more cubical today. You don't know whether a consumer is first going to experience, then going to explore, then going to engage, and then going to convert. And third most important thing which it has done, It has truly made word a global village. Year 2014, 2013, working with Vodafone, we launched a data pack, 5 rupees data pack, typically. And these were the days for those of you who are young, having hairs, not gray. Yeah. You would think, what am I talking about? Those were the days when 5 rupees used to get 5 MB data. Yeah. In those 5 MB data, we figured out in a very remote village of an India, there were heavy consumption of that data. Landed up there, figured out they were using something called as U2. You know what is U2? Anybody wants to take a chance? Yeah, it's not a US band. It means YouTube for them. And there was these kids who have figured out a connect to figure out Formula One racing. One of the kids picked up and he kind of given it out to everybody. The reason of this example is that today information is ubiquitous as long as somebody has a device which has become very, very cheap, and data connectivity, thanks to our big man in the country. Data is almost for pennies today. And because of that, information is available, communication channels are available. In that sense, I think for a marketer, it's about being present, being rational, being able to be individual, because of you need to connect to an individual. And these are probably three. And dealing with a consumer life journey which is not linear, a decision journey which is not linear. I think in these 4 things you can very, very clearly put the technological trends which are coming out.
Interesting take, Ashish, and thanks for starting off our conversation with these insights. Because when I hear a term like technological disruption, the very word disruption can have negative connotations. So I always see them as technological facilitations, or let's say technological enablements, right? And these enablements can actually come from within your organization. These enablements can actually come from your function. Say the function of marketing is seeing more technological enablements happening. Could be in the areas of retention, acquisition, measurement, and so on. Or they could actually be factors coming in completely from outside. Okay, so I mean, for example, I come from the automobile industry, and for me, currently the biggest enablement stroke disruption is electrification. Now, because of now this is a disruption that's happened from outside to me as a legacy brand. Okay, so if I'm a Maruti or a Mahindra or a Tata, I'm a legacy brand in this country. I'm known actually for certain benefits that I provide in a certain technology. So for me as a marketer, okay, my role, therefore, when everybody around me is talking about electric vehicles and hydrogen vehicles and so on and so forth, what kind of a role do I play in that? And that's where I guess the role of the marketer and the skill set becomes important. Gaurav, on that, for Noise as a brand, in your journey, what have been the key enablements that you've seen in your function for Noise?
Thanks, AVIK. So maybe I'm like Noise is a relatively shorter journey, just a couple of months into it. But this is maybe my first product company. I've always been in services company in internet. I mean, I got into internet in 2008. Yahoo, OLX, Cardeko, Zupi, and now Noise, which is an omni-channel approach. Maybe this is the first place where I've seen that data doesn't flow as rapidly as any of my previous organizations. So now it's actually the reverse for me, where I'm slowing down. Data or technology has a lesser play than what I'm actually used to. But then the biggest part in an omni-channel organization like Noise would be how do you and I'm just giving one quick example. I'm like, from a philosophy perspective, there are bigger things, but I'm just talking about a very quick here and now thing that we like to optimize on. A large part of our sales come from marketplaces, Amazons and Flipkarts of the world. We have our own D2C channels also. And we also sell offline, enterprise. And so there are 4 or 5 places that we sell from. Everybody speaks about first-party data and so on and so forth. But if a large part, almost like 80 odd % of your sales comes from places where you're not getting first party data back, how do you make sure that you as an organization which is born in the digital age do justice to that tag? So how do you like drive single customer views much better? How do you use your limited first party data to go and acquire better and at a good cost and so on and so forth? I think those are some of the things that we have started to talk about a little bit more. But then maybe I'll quickly also touch upon, I'm like, this whole disruption, technology disruption, why this has come into place. I'm like, as I said, I got into digital at a fairly early stage of digital in the country, 2008 Yahoo. But when I joined OLX 2013, I started off OLX in the country. That was the start of VC money in a big way in the country, where you almost started hearing $50 million checks being cut, $100 million infusions happening, and all of a sudden. And that's where the role of a marketer became a little bit more intense and scrutinized, because a large part of that fundraise that was happening was in a B2C company will go to a marketer. And which is where, I think to Ashish's point, I mean, like the 23-year pehle wala jo CMO, he could have been a little bit easy with doing a 2 or 3 campaigns and doing ki mera kaam yahi tak tha, yahan pe khatam hota hai. Now you're like doing the whole spectrum, which is where, and again, I didn't know that we work for 270 days out of the year. I would like to work for lesser. But the whole fact of the matter is that you have a lot of sleepless nights because you are in charge of the largest cost on the company's P&L. And at that time, you need any and every support that can help you make that right decision when you're signing off that $1 million campaign or a couple of $1 million campaigns. So that's where I think technology, data, all these things for a curious and a scared marketer will be the biggest allies. And which is why I think, I mean, from an anthropological perspective, the whole role of marketer and this technology coming and doing whatever it's doing, it is like 2 or 3 big things happening together at the same time, which is why I think marketing is maybe the most dynamic function of all business functions today. And the most intense, scrutinized. And I'll just sign off by saying, I mean, why intense and scrutinized? Like typically, I was reading like a Fortune 500 or 100, an average CEO tenure is 7.5 years. CMO is 3 or 4 years. And I think, yeah, which is where technology is super, super critical.
Yeah, interesting perspective there, because on the one hand, you have technology, on the other hand, you have an organization where everybody else is actually a marketing expert, right? So except for you, everyone else actually has an opinion of actually how you could do your job better, right? And as to how you should have communicated better, how you should have used this bit of technology better, and so on. So on that note, coming to you, Sachin, right? This is paisabazar.com, and we were having a conversation where you said that for you, possibly the biggest challenge is conversion, right? You're getting a lot of people to come onto paisabazar.com. Still, you are 2% of the market, right? And here, how do you think you would use technology to improve the conversion in the funnel?
Sure. So, we were discussing, we get roughly 20% inquiries of the industry, but we end up converting only 2%. There is 90% gap, which is there. As a marketer, what these guys were saying is right. But for me, the role of a marketer hasn't changed. From text ads 20 years ago to now conversational AI, we have come a long way. But the role of a marketer is to, be present at the right time, at the right place with the right message. How do you do it? It keeps on changing. Whether it's omni-channel, you figure out different signals to reach out to people who are actually in market at the right time with the right messaging. You could personalize the messaging. So we are doing all of these things. Now, why this gap of 90% is there? We get 20% inquiries and 2% conversions. Primarily because of the way financial products have been distributed in this country in the past, right? We have offline agents. We have, like in automobile, we have all these car dealerships. They have their in-house people who are selling different loan products right at the time of purchase. So all of these entities are our competitions. People do come to our site to check whether they are getting the right deal through these people or not. But when they see that, okay, I am getting a similar deal here and I'll get a similar deal in Besa Bazaar, so I might as well take it from them because they are physical, right? This is the biggest challenge which we are trying to, basically which we are trying to improve on. And how we are doing it, we are trying to find the best offer for the consumer. Lending is an industry where people, if you want a product, that does not necessarily mean that you will get that product. In our industry, rejection rate is very high. These offline agents, these offline people will not tell you unless and until you apply. And when you apply, your CIBIL score goes down by 5-6 points, and more you apply, more difficult your chances would be to get that product. This is where we differentiate. You don't have to apply anywhere. You come to our site, and we have built a model called chances of approval. Basis the different data signals we get from your credit score, from the other activities you do, from different alternate data. And we, with a very high accuracy, we tell you that this is the bank where your chances of approval are the highest. Even though the interest rate is a little high, but you should go with this product rather than apply to multiple options. And this is how we are, and now the next challenge is how we communicate it to the consumer that this is better for you. Because suppose someone is buying a car, there are 3 different people, one from HDFC, SBI, ICICI. You will talk to all these people. They will tell, I'll give you a cheaper interest rate, I'll disburse your loan in 2 hours, I'll give you a 7-year-long repayment period. And as a consumer, you are enticed to go to that option which is cheaper, which is more convenient to you. But when you apply, 2 days later, you realize, okay, my loan got rejected because of some factor which which was not on top of your mind. So this is how we differentiate, and this is what we are trying to communicate.
Okay, interesting. So you continue to play the role of the facilitator, okay, but you still have, you're grappling with the challenge of, a higher conversion.
Yeah. So we are a facilitator. We work with different partners. Even Sir is our partner, one of our partners. We are not a manufacturer. We do not have a book, but we do have a data layer in between, which helps in decisioning on the both sides, to the provider as well as the consumer. Because earlier, consumer, they didn't have a say. They had to apply before knowing that they got rejected, and then they had to apply somewhere else. So it's like giving the power of choice in the hand of the consumer.
Interesting perspective. On that, I'll come to you, Charu, because he said, I'm not a manufacturer, okay, but you represent a manufacturer. At the end of the day, it's all about the physical and the sensory experience the person has with the Hindware product. So for you as a marketer, okay, how do you bridge this gap, as I call it, between the screen and the showroom? What do you really go about? How do you go about doing that?
Very interesting question, and I was sharing a couple of thoughts back room. So see, the way this whole tech-led marketing environment is changing has also changed the consumer mapping journey overall, the consumer decision-making journey. And today, as marketers, there is a lot of these tech-led, data-led interventions that are required at relevant places. I wouldn't say that we do a digital overload, but these are required, to kind of, try and communicate with the consumer at the right places. I represent a company which primarily, it's a legacy brand, primarily a brick and mortar industry, manufacturing-led industry, is still today as well. The same existence is there as well today. But the way you approach the consumer, the way you now communicate with the consumer has undergone a transformation. So Hindware, with the legacy brand that it is, has undergone an immense transformation over the last couple of years. Right from the initial stages of communication, the first level of awareness, where the consumer, you want to communicate to the consumer via AI tools, chatbots. There's a lot more integration happening on voice as well as visual. You try and make ads and content so that you're optimizing them wherever the consumer is present. To then you move forward, and then the consumers, so see, the homes have acquired a new meaning altogether post COVID. Bathrooms have acquired a new meaning. Today consumers are very, very involved, closely involved in the kind of purchase that they want to make for their homes. And interestingly, while it's a brick and mortar industry where at the end he wants to go and feel the product at the showroom, he still wants to make his choices online. He's still 90% of the consumers today are making their are searching online for bathroom products before they actually go and purchase it from the store. Not just that, they are also wanting to have a visualizer. They're wanting to have immersive experience of the product, both using, so we're using VR, we're using AR tools to kind of provide them with that immersive experience where they're able to see the the bathroom themes and the kind of products that they want. Not just that, also how those products will look into their bathroom spaces. We were also working on a chat GPT visualizer, which is again a very innovative thing, where basis the user questions, they'll be able to see their own bathrooms and product recommendations. So it's a journey, it's an entire journey where you have to handhold the consumer right through the conversion funnel. And that's when probably he will walk into a store to make his final purchase. And 99% of those stores today also are offline, whereas we've started seeing some traction coming from e-commerce stores as well. So that's how we're trying to kind of bridge the gap between the first search which starts happening online to when he physically walks into a store. And now even when we talk about stores today, they're very well automated. They're providing that experience that he wants when he's gotten to that store. So another example here where we have these QR code based stickers on all products. So if he chooses a particular tile or he chooses a particular bathroom, he can just scan it and see how the product will look in his bathroom or in a particular ambience that he wishes to see it in. So again, those stores, that first moment of truth for the consumer again is very rich on experience and engagement. So that's how we try to kind of bridge it.
Interesting, yeah. And as we were discussing, this is also quite similar to, again, I go back to the automobile industry where a large part of the consumer's journey is being digitized. Okay, so you have all these technological interfaces which come in, but the two most important parts possibly in this journey are still physical, and they will continue to be physical. One is the test drive, okay, and the other is the actual delivery of the vehicle, right? Whether it's a two-wheeler or a four-wheeler, or even a truck for that matter, right? And so, I mean, I was talking to a couple of friends in Microsoft who've worked on this beautiful this HoloLens-based experience for Volvo, where the idea is that currently what happens is you are constrained by the fact that you need to look at a physical vehicle to decide whether you really want to go further with it or not. But Microsoft has done this project with Volvo where you are wearing the VR lenses and you have the vehicle in front of you. You may be on the 5th floor or the 15th floor, okay, but you have the Volvo XC40 in front of you, right? You experience it, you like it, and then you go for a physical test drive. So yes, so there's this beautiful interplay between the digital worlds and the physical worlds, and it'll just continue to happen because at the end of the day, what we consume is still food, which is physical. Till the time that is not digitized, I guess, we're still safe. So coming on to food, okay, Mukesh, you're into food, right? You're in that category, and this is something which is an integral part of our lives. But I'm sure your journey as a marketer, okay, marketing your brand of products, especially the olive range that you have, Okay, how have you seen developments in technology actually helping you in the process of communicating with your customers better about, okay, so we say olive oil is olive oil, right? And we read labels which you don't understand. Virgin, pomace, we don't know what it is, right? So how do you, or how have you used technology as an enabler, okay, in reaching out to your customers better, and possibly even retaining them better vis-a-vis competition?
Okay, so maybe starting with, I probably have the most unsexy business category in the room because that's FMCG that we're part of it. And when I say unsexy, is that because we don't have data. Like Gaurav was mentioning, at least they have 20% first party data. We have 0% first party data because all our sales are happening through third parties, be it a general trade, modern trade, or e-com. And that makes our consumer a god-like creature for which we have a hypothesis, certain imagery, but honestly, I don't know who exactly is my consumer. I have maybe certain hypothesis about it कि शायद इस तरह का कोई है. Maybe it's a 30 to 45-year-old woman, but honestly, I don't know because I don't have data to back that up. Interestingly, the technological disruption for our category would be twofold. I mean, one part is as a marketeer, as my team, how we use technology internally to maybe optimize our work, optimize our time frame. I mean, all of us as a professionals, I think we are more busy than we were ever in our professional life. And any technology, any tool that saves our time and makes our more efficient, that's an interesting category, or that's an interesting technology disruption for us. Be it AI, ML, ChatGPT, whatever the new technological innovations which is happening, which is making the life of a marketer easy. It's clearly a positive for even FMCG company or maybe any other company. The second part is the consumer interface, because as you said, we follow a simple fundamental. We go where consumer is, right? So we don't invent marketing, and for us, marketing is as simple. You follow your consumer. If your consumer is on newspaper, you go to newspaper. But now if your consumer is watching reels on TikTok or Instagram, I'll go there. So my technology is just to follow, or my technology intervention is to just follow consumer. Now, a couple of interesting things which has happened for, and I would say FMCG, or even inside FMCG, I'll say grocery as a category. One big disruption that has happened in the last, after maybe largely after pandemic, is that emergence of Q-commerce as a medium. Grocery was still, I would say, among the last categories to find an e-commerce adoption, while maybe apparels or consumer durables were early ones to catch hold of that. But grocery has been increasingly finding that additional market share. Today, I mean, just to throw a number, pre-pandemic, my e-commerce contribution was 8%. Now it's almost 28%. So in last 2-3 years, I'm almost grown maybe 3 to 4x. So hence now too, it's very important for me to understand those technological tools or techniques or platform which my consumer is using, and hence I have to be present there. As simple as that, maybe a platform advertising, which is I need to run my ads on Zepto's, Blinkitt's of the world. Or if my consumer is trying to consume a lot of entertainment content on Instagram Reels, I'll be creating Instagram Reels, and I'll not more be creating a website or a brochure. And maybe moving forward also, if there is a discovery platform which is happening, because now the consumer journey is non-linear. Earlier it used to be that I'll find about a product here, I'll research about it here and buy it there. But now the discovery and everything is happening in the same place. So the customer journey has been impacted, and I have to be present across all the platforms. So while one of my objective would be to engage my consumer and educate it, like as you mentioned, olive oil is maybe right now a complex category because it's still in the early stages. So maybe I would use a lot of long form of content to educate my consumer, which would be YouTube, or maybe, I don't know, podcast. I can use podcast to improve that. But at the same time, if I have to focus on the conversion, then I have to also be present at the last mile of the purchase journey, which is the Q-commerce or the e-commerce platform where this transaction is happening. So, I mean, we have to live with the technological disruption. And I believe every company today is a software company. I mean, while I believe that I'm an FMCG company, but we work like software engineers. My team is using pretty much all the latest technological disruptions that's happening, right from maybe ChatGPT to Midjourney to Fusion AI. We're using everything. So all of us are, all companies and all marketers are software engineers or software companies, and that's shaping our lives as well.
Interestingly said, and also correlating with what Sachin said, that, maybe fundamentally the role of the marketer hasn't changed at all. It's just that our means have changed, right? I mean, the end still continues to be the same. As Nietzsche had said so many years back that, if you're sure of the why, you can live with almost any how.
And these changes happen every 2-3 years and will continue to happen.
Absolutely.
Like I think all of us in the room.
So talking about change, I'll come to you, Ashish, because we were having this interesting conversation, and you may use the same words which you used in the back room. Okay, it's about measurement, right? So you talked about TikTok, Reels, this, that. We've got OTT. Suddenly we've got this new, let's say, disruption called Geo Cinema. Okay, people are now watching IPL on Geo, right? I know of why kids. I watch the Champions League on Sony Live. I prefer not to watch it on the television. I prefer to just sit on my work desk and watch the matches. Now, so there's disruption happening not only in the means of doing your work, but there's also disruption or possibly new things which are happening in the way you demonstrate your work or your content or whatever you create on new platforms through new media. How is all this measured? I mean, how important does the role of measurement play? For example, when Jio says that we had so many millions of people watching IPL on Jio. Okay? So how would you take those numbers? Or the OTT platforms, right? All these brands are going on OTT platforms because that's what a large part of India is consuming. Okay, and consuming in vernacular. So where lies the veracity of the numbers and where lies the importance of measurement?
I think one thing before even I start, disclaimer, views are my own, not of my employer. Belongs to financial industry, disclaimer are important. Second, learning. You shouldn't have backroom conversation. Having said that, I think one of the things which all of us have been, anybody who has been even used the word digital is being told that digital is used because of it is cheap, it is measured. Measurement is the holy grail to entire thing. And I think at times when just because of something can be measured, we start measuring. Today we are living in an era of having more data than having crucial information. One of the biggest change in marketers' life is becoming that we have transformed from having the crucial information to having a lot of data. Anybody you ask, everybody is running behind data. Data is new oil, XYZ, ABC. We just forget that just because of I can measure it, should I measure it? Number one. Number two, I think some of these platforms and the technology are having this catch-up game. So, for example, OTT. I mean, it's like TV, which used to have whatever TAM, BARC, whatever you want. OTT have their own measurements. You have a third-party tools. But interestingly, I have experimented putting something on OTT using 3 different tools. And the best part is I have never had even one number coming out, which is anywhere close to 5% to 10% variation range. Okay. Now, so like we said at the back room, and the reason why he's pushing me again and again back room. So I said, trust in God, everything else is digital. So yeah, so I think that's where as a marketer, you need to have alternate data sources or alternate information sources. And I was very curious to say this line, probably almost pushing when we were saying what has changed in marketers' life. Okay. And I shied away from saying it, but because of your pushing me for backroom conversations, I think I have applied to change my designation from CMO to CIO. Any guesses what CIO stands here? Information? Intelligence? Anybody else? Investigation? Anybody else? Innovation? Anybody else? Insights? Anybody else? All of you are geniuses. My I stands for Chief Inefficiency Officer. The reason is, I mean, think about it. 5 movements of truth in a consumer journey, Any marketer, tell me one thing. If a consumer complains, who's supposed to close the complaint? Somebody in operations. Am I right? He or she goes online and writes, you don't deserve it. Who gets impacted? Your MD goes on stage and says that you have a right to be forgotten, but don't come back to me for any products. Yeah. Who is impacted? Operations? Sales? It's marketer. Because of your NPS is going to go down, your consideration is going to go down. And I think as marketers, we keep grappling with inefficiency. And this measurement has become a part of that managing the efficiency. The better marketer you are is defined by how good can you manage these inefficiencies. The holy grail of measurement and data, what is being told to people time and again as a rhetoric, is at least right now is not coming true. I don't know about tomorrow. You have chat GPT, you can tomorrow have a data GPT, something measurement GPT, God only knows. Okay. Till the time that happens, I think come back to basic fundamentals. You always have to have a hypothesis, and going back to my marketing classes, you have to have a hypothesis null and alternate hypothesis. Similarly, you have to have a data source A, have a data source B with that. Digital is about bringing in efficiency of spends. It's not about being cheap. The moment you start thinking from a lens of, oh, somebody does not like, or my tummy is growling. You mentioned food at a wrong time, man. Both of you. Yeah. This noise was sponsored by Modi Natural. So, I mean, as long as you can keep your fundamentals straight about keeping a focus on efficiency of spends, because of you can only control those input parameters. The moment, as long as your efficiency of spends is coming out, you can have these vanity metrics. You can create Excel sheet in 3 lines, or you can have 3,000 lines. So I used to work with one of my bosses used to be Mr. Munjal. I used to work for Hero. And I love his 2 lines, which I use as a marketer, and I'll leave them with you. He used to say only 2 lines. And typical in Punjabi, he'll say, Putra, son, with you, you have 100 rupees in 8 hours, spend it well. What gets you most? And whenever you go to him for investment, he'll say, I am giving you this. Ask me whatever money you want. What are you going to get me back? You can have a longitudinal projection. You can have a horizontal projection for the day, for the week, for the month, for 10 years down the line. As long as you can follow on that path, what you are investing, you can showcase what you are returning. And how does it matter if Jio is doing 4 billion impressions or 4,000 billion impressions? You are gearing up, you are at 3% of the market, you want to become 4%. And to become that 4%, if your base is at X, you only need that 1% of that X to be incremental. And like he said, know your customer, know where they are, figure out that metrics. And the moment you start looking at them, then you don't need to grapple with big data. Big data is for software engineers, let them play with it. Okay. As a marketer, keep managing this inefficiency. And as long as you can manage it, I think for next couple of years, your life is sorted. Till then, who knows?
Yeah, interesting perspective there, Ashish, when you talked about the marketer basically being, looking at how to reduce inefficiencies, right? And maybe traditionally we've been doing that. We don't know. Maybe it's integral to our jobs. We really don't know. So Gaurav, because you've been, at least in our group, and maybe even in the hall, you've been the earliest adopter of the digital world. Okay. Have you seen in your own journey since 2008? Have you seen your own skill sets changing, enhancing, or you completely unlearning what you learned something earlier and learning something absolutely afresh?
The fundamentals. Should I make a plug for it? If people didn't hear, sponsored by Home Credit. Yeah. No, I think the fundamentals stay the same. I think I'm like what Mukesh and Sachin spoke about, that the fundamentals are going to be the same, that you're talking to your consumers, where they want to be spoken to, what are you going to be saying. But the amount of, the way you do it is so fast paced. I mean, like, I'm like, Mukesh and I know each other from, so he was just joking, it's your first product company. And like, shit, yeah, I'm at loggerheads right now. I mean, like, supply chain, manufacturing, all these things are becoming a huge um factor in my go-to-market strategies. I mean, till now, I've always been in services companies. So I'm like, maybe my service, my go-to-market strategies, while they used to keep on evolving and changing, but it is the most dynamic field in the whole business function, and which is where and maybe I'll just like also like try to expand the question. I mean, like, what you also asked of Ashish about measurement. For a person who's in marketing, because there's so much of disruption happening and there's so much of expectation that's coming his or her way. What he spoke about, Mr. Munjal, ki अरे 100 रुपए ले लो लेकिन मुझे बता देना क्या है. That's where all these technologies come to your rescue so many times. I'm like, you're getting into a new technology and so on and so forth. The biggest muscle for a marketer is not a marketing muscle, it's a sales muscle. How do you project really well? How do you like really make sure that, and again, I'm like, be it like a 10-year vision or a 1-year vision and so on and so forth. You might be, I mean, like, I remember when I was at Yahoo, I'm like, that was the first time people were talking about like CPM kya hota hai, CPC kya hota hai. People were saying, yeah, this is like the metric to optimize. Then all of a sudden, these things just kept on becoming like really evolved, and now we are talking about like absolutely alien stuff compared to in 2008. But the fact of the matter is, how do you use all these metrics, and they will keep on evolving, to project really better? I think that's the entire job of a marketer. Because there'll be so many things you subsume them and then make an output which makes sure that all your stakeholders, be it the CFO, the CEO, the board, they believe in your vision to deploy that large amount of investment that they have raised, to make sure that you are the one who is going to be relevant 5, 10, 15 years down the line. So I'll sign off by saying, I mean, like, whenever somebody asks me what's a marketer's job, I always say that I secure the future revenue lines of the company. I make the company future-proof. And when that has to happen, you have to project really, really well. कि 2 साल बाद क्या होएगा, 5 साल बाद क्या होएगा. So all the tools that I would have seen in the past 15 years changing and all, they're nothing but like another variable in this whole decision-making set. So yeah, that's the way I look at this whole thing.
Nicely put. Charu, coming to you. At the showroom level, okay, with the people who are actually demonstrating your products to the people who walk in, what kind of skill enhancements have you seen happening on that front? Because that is, let's call it the final frontier, okay, where physically your prospect meets you, right, in front of your product. And so what new tools have you used, or what skills have you seen being enhanced or changed in your sales force over the years?
So this is specific to the showrooms where you have your salespeople selling these bathroom products to the consumers. And I'll take back from the conversation that I had earlier on the kind of tools that we have right now, which are providing an immersive experience to the consumer. So while he's done his research online, he's compared products, he's seen different websites, now is a point when he actually wants to see how that particular product will look in his bath space. And that's what he expects when he walks into a store, that he'll be able to kind of use some kind of a VR or the AR tools to actually see and see the product in his bathroom. So our sales force primarily, so the kind of bathroom visualizer that we have, or the tiles visualizer that we have, or the advanced chat GPT visualizer that I was talking about, we're training. I mean, this is like all work in progress. My bathroom visualizer was launched about like 6 months back. So we're training all our sales force, sales teams, sales boys at the counters on all these tools, on iPads, on screen, so that they can actually help consumers, handhold them through by recommending, and also during the entire decision making as to what product will be suitable for them. That's one thing. Second is obviously all my right now it's still work in progress, so all my sales team is not trained on it. Apart from that, the other thing that we do is there are e-catalogs that we have. So on e-catalogs, what we've done is we've tried to digitally integrate all my videos, all the content that he needs to compare products of competition. So that's again generate quotations. For example, there's a consumer who walks in. So very very normal scenario where a consumer says, "मुझे 50,000 में bathroom बनवाना है." Or for example, I have a budget of 25,000. So my salesperson has to be adept in using that e-catalog, which has specific bathroom solutions and bathroom packages, which will put together various products in a particular ambience to give the consumer the exact solution that, okay, this bathroom is what will be worth 25,000, and he should be able to show him at least 3-4 options in similar product recommendations and put together a bathroom in a particular ambience. So a couple of these kind of skill sets.
Interesting. I'll come to you now, Mukesh. Along with technology, along with enablers, along with things that just keep making your life better, everything has the other edge. The other edge is it can actually become a tool which can actually be quite disturbing to your cause. For example, there was this case of when someone actually made a deep fake video about a very popular brand, VIP. Okay, and if the brand would not have intervened in time, okay, things could have actually got really, really ugly. Now that is the reality of today's technological world, where you can use the same tools, okay, to either create an enabler or create a Leviathan or a Frankenstein. What's your take on this? And I'm sorry, our time's up. The screen says that, so I'll just give you a minute and a half on the same.
I'll try to keep it short. So clearly, with the adoption of any technology comes with its own demerits. And maybe the hottest technology right now on the cards is, say, for example, ChatGPT or generative AI. The biggest challenge for any marketer or any organization is about misinterpretation and misrepresentation. Because whatever data that has been fed for those large language models to work on, that's a black box. We don't know what data has gone behind that. So a lot of times the information that they throw back to us may not be factually correct. And we have seen that maybe the technology is still in a very nascent stage. The kind of outputs they're giving is actually factually wrong. So clearly, even in the age of maybe artificial intelligence, let's say, that's where the human intelligence still will remain the core mode for any organization. Those outputs still has to be validated. Those outputs still have to be calibrated. Talking about the misuse of it, I think human brain or human intelligence will adapt or evolve as per the technology flourish. Like we remember maybe 5 years back, if I would seen an image which was photoshopped, I might have got confused. But now I know, okay, this is for Photoshop. So I think that our cognitive brain will develop over a period of time when a fake video or those kind of things will be created using artificial or generative AI. Maybe human brain will start finding that maybe this is not real, or sometimes, yes, brand will have to come out, or maybe an organization or anyone will have to come out and say that maybe this image was created artificially using artificial intelligence, or this was created using a human brain. But that's the learning curve, and you have to live with that. There is no escaping from that, but one has to live with it and accept it.
So it's basically the enhancement of the role of the marketer. Okay, now not only to look at what you are producing, but also to always have a tab on what your competition is doing to damage your brand. Earlier it used to happen only at the store. Now it's happening in this wide digital world. Sachin, last words from you, which is, say, 2 or 3 key messages you would like to share with the entire gathering here on the subject of the role of the marketer vis-a-vis technology as an enabler, technology as a disruptor.
Yeah. So, I would say as a marketer, just keep this in mind that your role hasn't changed. It has just evolved a bit because the means have changed. Like you rightly said, the core is still there to build a brand in the minds of your consumer. Try to own at least a single word in the brain space so that your brand can be identified with that word. Now there are a lot of technologies, and most of the time I've seen this when I talk to different people. Sometimes there is a fad also. Someone is using a technology which is very relevant to their business. Others would try to figure out how can I take that technology and fit that in my business model. There is no need to do that. Figure out use cases within your own business. There might be different technologies. There might be different ways to tackle those issues which you are facing. Those might be completely different than the other organization is facing. One such fad is omni-channel. People are just trying to get in, trying to get one tool or another. You would find one company or another pitching you these tools on each events without realizing that while an omni-channel platform is critical nowadays, but without having the right infrastructure beneath that tool, which is the right data layer, right data objects, that tool is useless. You will end up paying a lot to these organizations, and then 1 year later you will say that nothing has happened because your data was not in the right shape. So first work on the fundamentals before jumping onto these technologies because it's there.
Yeah, very interesting last words from the group, from the panel discussion here, which is to put it in street lingo, आपको कोई ना कोई कुछ ना कुछ चेपने आएगा, ठीक है? लेकिन अगर आपका वजूद आपका बुलंद हो, so you will realize that technology basically is a means. Just like for our grandparents, okay, for them radio was a new technology, okay, or possibly even the newspaper was new technology, okay. When we were kids, television was new technology, right? Absolutely. I mean, something like the Walkman was new. Okay, then when the first iPad or the iPod came, it was new. So these are all new technological things, but they are just the means. They are not the end. The end is what the marketer really actually nurtures. I wouldn't say control because you're controlled by the customer, but the end is what you really nurture. And as all of them said, you've just got to go ahead and live your own life, be true to yourself, and everything is a breeze. Thank you very much. Thank you for being so patient with us. Thank you. Thank each one of you. Ashish, Charu, sorry, Gaurav, Mukesh, and Sachin. Thank you to each one of you for your inputs, for your insights, and yeah, we had a good time. Thanks.
Thank you all the panelists.